Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 1584, written by Ruby Red Apple 1, The Delicious Mystery at Tacos El Gordo. Me and my husband are quite in shock after experiencing something really weird yesterday. Background. 1 year ago, March 2023, during our travels to Vegas, we went to a taco spot called Tacos El Gordo. There was a long line, and while in line, the guy in back of us started making conversation. It was a very high-spirited guy with braces that explained he was staying at a hotel nearby and had come the previous night with his wife and kids to get some tacos. They really liked the tacos, so they had come back. He shared that they'd flown in from the PNW. A bit about his job and his wife and children eventually join him, hang out for a bit in line with them, then head back out to find a seat. These details matter later on in the story. We share a bit about ourselves and do some small talk. We finally get to the front of the line, order our food, and say our goodbyes and nice to meet you. That's it. Never see them again. Totally forgot about this incident. Present day, 1 year later, March 2024, we took a weekend trip to San Diego. We have never been there, so we wanted to check it out. I want to add some context to this day, because I think it's important to note all the things that had to happen and change for the event to have happened. First of all, out of all weekends, it decided to rain down in San Diego this weekend, so we had to readjust our plans. We'd planned to do those trolley hop-on, hop-off rides to the main sightseeing locations in San Diego. Unfortunately, because it was raining so badly, the trolley decided to limit the number of shuttles that passed by, leaving us stranded in the first location we hopped off. We came up with Plan B, which was to make our way to museums in Balboa Park, to wait for the rain to stop, and then head to a few other neighborhoods once we got some clear skies. Once we got through all that, we headed back towards the neighborhood we were staying at, tried out a bar, but weren't really feeling the vibe. Walked for a bit and finally decided to head to where the event occurred. The event. My husband suggested that we should go to a taco spot I'd pinned on Google called Tacos El Gordo. We weren't too hungry, but we might as well taste it because it had great reviews. There's a huge line, and as we're waiting in line we realize that this is actually the same Tacos El Gordo as the one in Las Vegas we'd gone to the year before. Cool, didn't know they had a chain. We started talking about how we'll compare which location was better. There is this couple in front of us, and right in front of them we notice this guy that starts chatting them up. We overheard him making small talk, asking them what they did for a living, etc. I briefly caught a glimpse of this guy and mentioned it to my husband. Hey, doesn't that guy look like the guy we met in Las Vegas last year? That would be funny if it was him, wouldn't it? Then we stared more carefully. He doesn't have the braces anymore, but that definitely looks like him. We remember that he had his wife and kids, so we tell ourselves if we see them, then we know for sure it is him. 1 minute later, we see them. Holy crap, our faces go white and we're stunned. To triple confirm, my husband actually goes up to the guy and asked him, "This might sound weird, but did you happen to go to Las Vegas last year and also went to Tacos El Gordo while there?" The guy confirmed they had been. He said his family flew in for a spring break this year to San Diego. We're walking around and happened to notice that this was the same taco spot they went to in Vegas, so they decided to stop at that moment. He actually did not remember our conversation in Vegas, but he kinda laughed and thought it was also a weird coincidence. We again made some small talk while in line, got our tacos, and went our separate ways. What the hell, this was just not a coincidence. This just doesn't happen ever. What is the probability that we'd both end up in the same city 1 year later at the same restaurant, same weekend, same time, only 2 feet away? Not to mention that our whole day wasn't supposed to go this way. It could have gone completely differently, and yet somehow every single decision we made up to this moment led us to the same spot. We actually weren't even supposed to go to San Diego on this particular weekend. I'd originally booked it for 2 weeks prior, but realized we had plans, so rebooked everything all over again. How does this happen? To the kind stranger we met, see you next year in whatever city we decide to make a plan to in March. Case notes for file 1584, The Delicious Mystery at Tacos El Gordo. Coincidences permeate through every single facet of our lives. Every single day, something miraculous and incredibly unlikely happens. We just don't notice most of them, because they don't directly impact us, or if they do, we just don't appreciate the sheer odds of it. Indeed, just being born is a tremendous luck of happenstance. Why was your sperm exactly the one that managed to reach the egg, right? Out of millions or billions. But of the coincidences that do impact us, are they all planned out by some external force? Some grand cosmic web that has every single possibility mapped out, and your exact path through that web mapped out as well? Well, I personally don't think so. I'm not a fate kind of guy. But influenced, yes. Guardian angels, aliens, CIA, government, the dungeon masters of the simulation, whatever you want to call it, there are so many possible influences of a higher level that could be trying to manipulate where we end up. I do believe that is true. I just don't believe they have perfect control over the future. There's no way to know who has a hand in tossing proverbial pebbles on our road, and we may never know to just what extent our lives are influenced. Case file number 1585, written by LuckyLandLord. The Ice Cube Beyond the Multiverse. Some background on who I am. Perfectly healthy 26-year-old male. I was fully awake, sober, you call it. What happened step by step? I went to the kitchen, I took a glass for a drink. I poured a Pepsi inside it. Opened the freezer and took an ice cube from there. Put it inside my glass where the Pepsi was. Clearly saw that the ice cube was there in the Pepsi. I swear to God, my mind is clear. I never forget anything. If I put an ice cube there, I know it and remembered it. Then I felt like I had a 1-second blackout, maybe even less. The ice cube had disappeared. I know it's a super small thing, but I knew I put it there. My heart started racing since I was sure it was there. I looked at the ice cubes where I took it from. I used a plastic ice cube box to make them, and it was missing one ice cube, the one I took from it. I searched the whole kitchen, that maybe, just maybe, I didn't put it inside the glass. It was nowhere to be found. I am 100% sure it was there inside the glass. I know it seems like such a small, not important thing. Like, oh, haha, maybe you just didn't put the ice cube there in the first place. But yes, I did. I am sure. Case also file 1585. The Ice Cube Beyond the Multiverse. So that ice cube tray actually pushes away quantum immortality as a viable explanation. Because why would there be a cube missing in the tray of the new universe if you never used one? I mean, maybe you used one earlier in that day? But that seems a bit of a stretch. I guess it's not impossible. But that momentary blackout, where things just go black for half a second, that reminds me of when people describe the sun blinking out of existence, but it's only for half a second to a second in those cases as well. And it's only for a small geographic area, so it doesn't affect the entire planet. What this makes me think is, this isn't quantum immortality. It's another demonstration of server cluster failure. That's what is actually happening when people see the sun going out. It gives tremendous credence to the idea that we live in a simulation. And in that real world, there are still computers of a certain type and server clusters like we use here. If you're playing a MMORPG online or any service online, there's various server clusters that are charged with handling the logic of the program and also the traffic to the server. And if one of those clusters crashes, well, there's others in a cloud, so to speak, that will take over. But that process still takes some time. Even though it's very fast, it's not so fast that it's instantaneous to our perception. We perceive it as sound and light going out for half a second to a second in a geographic area. How big is a server cluster managing in terms of the virtual real world that we inhabit here? A square mile, 10 square miles? Who knows? But in that volume of area, anyone within it will perceive light and sound just vanishing, even if they're indoors. It's not the sun, it's any sort of input coming in. And really, when you think about it, this is as classic a glitch as a glitch can be. It's literally just an error in the server managing the simulation. Pretty cool. Now, time for the quote of the day. If the human mind was simple enough to understand, we'd be too simple to understand it. Emerson Puck. Well, when you appreciate just how powerful the human mind is, and how there's 8 billion of them walking around, that's amazing. There's 8 billion computers out there trying to understand the nature of reality. Our minds are not easy to understand, because they're so complex. But if they were simpler, they wouldn't have the processing power to understand that simplicity either. So I think there's a tipping point where you're complex enough eventually to understand yourself, your own makeup. It's like the test for animals. Can they perceive themselves in a mirror? It's the mirror test. I think dolphins and elephants do pass, but chickens, dogs generally don't, cats don't. They just think it's another reality that they can't access. Not themselves. I think pigs can pass the test as well. Pigs are actually quite smart. But anyways, I think suffice to say, appreciate the gift you have, your own mind, and the ability to perceive reality, whatever it might ultimately be deep down. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.